Hi Wavy Curlies, thanks for coming back, and if you're brand new, thanks for showing up. I'm going to talk to you today about my curly girl don'ts and what I do instead, so you're getting do's and don'ts, but how that relates to me specifically as a fine to medium haired curly with lower density and high porosity. So these are my do's and don'ts because of what my hair is like. So you may find some of these helpful and some of them may not apply to you, but I hope you'll stick around so maybe you can learn something in the process anyway. If you're brand new, thanks for showing up. I'd love for you to subscribe. And if you're a subscriber, are you getting notifications? Please hit the little bell so that you can know when I post anything new. And you guys, you know you can share this information with your friends. You can always email it, hit the share button, or just post it to social media. That'd be great. Awesome. So let's get going. So my first don't, according to a lot of the tenets or things that a lot of curly girls follow, is that I don't co-wash exclusively. Matter of fact, I don't even co-wash that much. So co-washing means that you're either using a lighter, thinner conditioner to wash your hair, or you're actually using a co-wash product, something that's designed to be a heavily moisturizing and lightly cleansing product. And the reason why I don't do that is because my roots are lower porosity and my skin on my face and my scalp tends to be oilier. So for me, just because of that, co-washing just gives me pretty limp roots if that were the same, if I were to do that over and over again. Now I can do it occasionally in the winter when the weather is just drier, but I rarely do two co-washes back to back. That second co-wash, I'm really feeling heavy coated roots by the second and third day. I'm not making it to fourth day hair. So co-washing usually is followed by a shampoo. The way it works for me is I clarify 1 to 2 times a month. Then the other washes are low, like a lower detergent or low poo shampoo, and then possibly a co-wash. So it's the low poo that happens most often, and I kind of rotate through those 3 from stronger to lightest washing. The second thing that I don't do that many people do, and it leads right into it, is use a super moisturizing shampoo. So when I do low poo, it's not a heavily moisturizing shampoo. So there's a certain brand with shea dominant in the ingredients, and even their lightest ones tend to be too heavy for my low porosity roots. I just feel that shea butter cling to those low porosity roots and just build up. So I don't use super moisturizing shampoos. I'd rather use moisturizing conditioner or leave-in and be able to target it a little bit better just where it's needed. So I don't go for the ultra moisturizing. I definitely feel weighed down by my density of hair for that. The third thing that I don't do is leave in most of my conditioner. A lot of wavy curlies will put their leave-in conditioner in the shower and just kind of like barely rinse a little tiny bit out and like leave most of it in. And usually I find that is people with a lot more hair, and it winds up being down here that they can do that with all that conditioner, you know, staying in the lower parts of their hair. Well, it's not very far from the end of my hair to my roots. And so leaving that conditioner in, again, just gets stuck to the low porosity roots. I get waxy, I get separated, and it's just too heavy. So I rinse everything out, and then I reapply a leave-in conditioner, again, to target where I need it. And I can tell when I'm rinsing it out that it's helped, that it's still silkier, that there's still some that has clung, but I don't leave most of it in. So the fourth thing I don't do is do lots of squish to condish, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, wait, what? Everybody does squish to condish. And I do it, yes I do. So if you're not sure what squish to condish is you're squishing your conditioner in to your hair while there's water in it. You're using kind of this scrunching method. So I do it, but I do much less of it than most wavy curlies. Some people will just squish and squish and squish and squish and squish. And one reason that I don't do it, well, there's 2 big reasons. The first, again, is that my roots are not far from the ends of my hair, and as I squish and that water, I feel like gets squirted upward towards my roots, it just kind of starts pushing it way further up than I want it to be. The other reason is because I have high porosity hair, which means that the hair follicles are lifted up and water gets in there easily. So I don't have to do a lot of squishing to try to force it through a tightly packed cuticle like a low porosity one. My cuticles are open and the product and the water, they're already going up in there. It gets absorbed easily. So just a little bit of squishing for me is all I need. The fifth thing that I don't do is dry plop. So you may have heard of plopping, where you put your hair in a t-shirt or a curly hair towel, and you kind of wrap it up, not really turban style, but that's a whole nother video to go into what plopping is. But I don't use that t-shirt on my head secured and walk around or do makeup and do stuff with it plopped, because my ends are high porosity. And that t-shirt with such low density, my hair takes on water easily and it loses moisture easily. So that t-shirt will absorb too much moisture for my hair. And my hair is so low density that this cowlick that gives me natural root lift is like mashed down. No matter how loose I try to do it, I always have much more flat, stuck to my roots type of hair if I have plopped with a dry item like a t-shirt. So the sixth thing I don't do is scrunch all my products in. So there are different ways to apply products. Some is raking it in with your fingers, scrunching the products in, praying hands, rope scrunching, where you go down in a more vertical manner down the hair shaft. So I don't scrunch in all my products because there's just not a lot of structure or density to each of my curl clumps. So when I start doing this, it really starts pushing that clump wider and wider apart, because there's not a lot of hair on the side keeping it all together, like somebody who has mounds of hair, dense hair, coarser hair. Even if it's short, or even if it's fine and they have tons of it, because I have neither. I have finer and not very much hair. The more I scrunch, the more I'm gonna be kicking out little stray hairs and causing a little kind of pulling apart of those clumps, maybe higher up. So I don't get the best looking curls when I do scrunching in all my products. So I do a variety, and I will go over that in another video of how I apply what in which way. So to keep this somewhat brief, because we're already almost at 8 minutes, I don't scrunch everything in. So smasters is when you apply an additional amount of an already used product, or it actually could be a new product, partway through your drying, diffusing process. So additional product. It's done for hold, but sometimes it can actually increase the curliness of your hair. It can act as a curl enhancer. And I do smasters, but I don't use a product with less hold than what is underneath it. So if my last product was gel, I don't use something soft like a cream on top of it. If my last product was a mousse, I don't use something softer than that. Or I don't use a custard. I don't use the thing that was under that last product. So I'll reapply the last one, whether it was mousse or cream or gel, whatever the last product was, that's generally what I'm going to apply for smasters, but I don't use something softer because I feel like it dilutes the hold that I'm getting in my hair. And I generally go for a medium hold anyway and not a super strong hold. So I don't need it to be weakened at that point. The eighth thing I don't do is use a ton of gel, which I sort of alluded to. I like a medium hold. I will use a strong hold gel in the summer because frizz is my nemesis, and I live in the South, so it's a constant battle for me, and I wind up sacrificing volume when that happens. But if I can find an old picture, I'll stick it in here, where I had just so much gel and I look like I have 6 crispy little noodles when my hair is dried and crunchy. There's just no density, and sometimes it's just too hard to scrunch out the crunch because there's not enough mass to get it to unscrunch. I'll use oil, I'll clap it, I wind up having to manipulate it so much, and then it just feels dry or producty or or frizzy because I've had to break it up because it's just controlled my hair too much. So with my texture, length, and density, using a ton of gel is not the answer for me. The night thing I don't do is I don't pineapple. I don't pull my hair on top of my head in a ponytail and sleep with it overnight. Even if it stayed, which it doesn't, but if it stayed, I would have a crimp mark. And even if it stayed, that's so much tension from that everything leading up to it gets really stretched out. So what I do instead is use clips. I do Medusa clipping. So I created that, and there's a video right here I'll post. So if you have shorter hair or finer hair that's long, you can still use the Medusa clipping method and wear your hair up for night and preserve it with less tension so that you have more capability of having multi-day hair out of it. So I don't pineapple. I also, as a caveat, I guess that'd be 9.5, don't use a buff because it does the same thing but stretches and flattens, and I just get such compression against my head. Ooh, like right there. And it just kills my volume, and it just, the warmth of my head just kind of remolds my hair too much with a buff on. And the last thing I don't do, which I wouldn't recommend for most anybody, is I don't deep condition overnight. Now I'm gonna say I don't recommend it as a whole because you run the risk of hygral fatigue, which is when your hair is waterlogged. Your hair has taken in too much water and it's starting to try to expand it beyond its structure, and that starts to weaken and break the structure to accommodate more moisture that's continued to be waterlogged in there. So anybody can run the risk of hygral fatigue. However, getting to know your own hair and doing your own experiments is absolutely what I recommend for everybody. And I know people who can sleep with a deep conditioner or some with wet condition type hair, or keep it on for hours and they don't experience hygral fatigue. As a high porosity person, I would be very careful to do that. You and I are the ones that run that risk. And so for that reason, I don't deep condition overnight because I already know from a hair analysis that my hair takes on a lot of moisture in the shower, so much so that I get low elasticity when my hair is wet, meaning that structure's been expanded and it doesn't want to stretch now. It's more likely to break because it's been pushed beyond its limits of bounce back, if that makes sense. So those are my 10 things that I don't do. Real quickly, I don't co-wash exclusively. I don't use ultra moisturizing shampoos. I don't leave most of my conditioner in. I don't squish to condish as my primary methodology, or use it to a more extreme extent. I don't dry plop. I don't scrunch all my products in from beginning to end. So that works for some people. I think maybe for longer hair or stiffer hair or denser hair. I don't smasters with a product with less hold than the previous product underneath it. I don't use tons of gel. I don't pineapple overnight, and I don't condition overnight. What don't you do that most curly girls do? Let me know in the comments. And I probably will have a part 2 to this video because there's some more things of do's and don'ts that I want to tell you. And for brevity, I didn't want to make this video too long. So let me know what it is that you do or don't do. Maybe those are some things that I also don't do, and I might put them in my next video as well. So thanks for coming, you guys, and I will see you again in another wavy curly video soon. Bye.